If you're a stalker and you like to stalk other people's pages, you are not gonna like this. Instagram just did an update, and on their update, they added a map feature. You heard what I said, a map feature. Here, take a look at it. Read it for yourself. A new map feature allowing you to track and share locations with others, which basically means if you like to stalk people's pages or you're having some kind of internet thing with someone you're not supposed to, you're about to get caught. Here's just an example of what I'm talking about. You see right above right there under the map, nearby, it shows you exactly where people are so you can kind of communicate with those in your circle or in your neighborhood. Here's just another example of what I'm talking about. For example, all these little dots on the map are either people that I'm following or people that are following me. And when they post, it shows their exact location. Hence the part where I said, some people on this app are now going to get themselves in a lot of trouble. So my suggestion to all is just turn the feature off, because this gets even more crazier, because if you actually zoom in really close on the person's image, it gives you the pinpoint exact location as to where they are. So I guess my question to you is, will you be turning it off, or will you be snooping around to see if people say they are where they are when they tell you they're going to be going someplace? Or are you just going to turn it off and just continue to use the app the way you have been? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, I'd love to hear from you.
If you have Instagram, which is everyone watching this right now because this is on Instagram, or you're a parent or you're a teenager, you have to watch this. Instagram today is launching Instagram Maps, which is extremely dangerous because it shares your exact location with people you don't even know. All these people right here are people I have no idea who they are, but they're sharing their location. So I'm going to tell you exactly how to turn this feature off to protect you, protect your family, and everyone else you know you love. You're going to go to your Instagram profile and you're going to click right there on the hamburger, and you're going to scroll down on settings all the way until you find right there, hide story and live. Click on that button. Once you click on that button, you're going to click on location sharing right there. In here, this is where it shows if you're sharing your location or you're not. You want it to say with no one. If you click on any of the others and click back to no one, it's going to say, well, how long do you not want to share? You never want to share it until you turn it back on. That's what you want to click. The next thing you have to do is you need to go to your iPhone settings and your apps. And so you're going to click back over to iOS. You're going to scroll all the way down to apps, and you're going to scroll until you find Instagram. You should do this for all of your apps, actually. But click on Instagram, click on location, and then click on precise location. You got to turn that off because it shares exactly where you're at. And then once you've done that, go back to Instagram, and you're going to see that back in that same spot, it's going to say, hey, turn on your precise location. Don't do it. Please, please, please. For the safety of your family, turn off location.
This is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 11. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. I want to give all honor, all glory, and all praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the elders of the nation of Israel. Shalom to you brothers out there that are laboring, enduring the elements, making your body a living sacrifice, trying to seal the elect, making your carnal election sure, seeking out your own salvation, as well as you sisters that are learning, listening, applying, being obedient to your husbands. Shalom, shalom. Once again, it's the brother Zechariah coming back to you with another lesson, and Lord willing, this be edifying. All right. So I'm not feeling 100% today. I woke up this morning with a migraine. Of course, I went to work. You know, I went through the day, and it was a very hot day. I don't know if it's has something to do with that, you know, or it's just not feeling well, period. But, you know, either way, I'm just not feeling 100%. But I'll be all right. You know, like I said, you know, this is another lesson that I wanted to dive into. So without further ado, you know, we dive into it. So you seen the two clips that I just went directly to Instagram to pull them up, you know, because they got a new app on there. And it's it's getting crazy out there. We're in some real heavy times. So you want to be mindful about how you move, how you conduct yourselves. Be mindful, be sober, be vigilant. Because like the scripture says, your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. All right. This man has his devices, which let me read this again. 2 Corinthians 2:11. It says, lest Satan should get the advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Okay, and we're not ignorant of his devices. That's why, us as the men and women and children of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua that have coming back to this truth, man, we have to be very circumspect. All right, because these things will pop up and you're like, hold on, wait a minute, what is this? So we want to be mindful of that. Okay. So I got this article, all right, and we'll read a little bit of this, but pretty much the clips was basically explaining just about everything. The first clip was going into, hey, what the app is about, or this add on onto Instagram, because it just popped up out of nowhere, and it's like, whoa, hey, but that's gonna cause a whole lot of stuff. I saw one meme. I was gonna play the clip, but I'm not gonna play it because it's part of a movie, so they might try to get you for like copyright or something. But it was what's the name of that movie? It's the one that had Lisa Ray in it, Players Club. That's it, Players Club. It's been a minute since I've seen that movie. But there was the scene where she was coming home and the stalker was followed her home, and he was, saying, oh, so this is where, you at or whatever. And he was trying to make advances like, can he come in? And she's like, huh? And he's like, I always follow you home and stuff like that. So, on some real creepy type stuff. But that's the type of spirit a lot of these guys will be on, with these type of apps. A lot of these women, and that's why we tell the women, to be mindful in how you conduct yourself. You know what I'm saying? A very attractive sister, and you got some weird activity out here right now. So that's very important to be mindful, especially with these devices. If it wasn't for this truth, I wouldn't even been on social media. It was, and the only reason why I had social media even back then was because I was doing music before I came into this truth. But coming into this truth, like around the time when the Heavenly Father was beginning to wake me up, I had like a spirit on me, man, where I was just done with social media. And I was like, man, I'm going to delete like all of it, get rid of all those pages, because I was on Facebook. I had a few Instagram pages, which I still got my Instagram pages. But I did get rid of my primary Facebook page, which, I wish I didn't do that, because not only did I have a lot of people follow that page, but I lost a lot of pictures, that, I can't get back now, because I don't have access to that page. But it's all good. But it says how to use Instagram Map and protect your privacy. Okay, which, hey, my location is turned off on my, when I'm on that app, it's turned off anyways, but I'm not afraid of anybody knowing where I'm at or where I live or what, nothing like that. I ain't got nothing to hide. But at the end of the day, you still don't want to just be putting yourself out there. All right, but it says following Wednesday's launch of Instagram's new Snap Map, all right, opt-in Instagram Map feature, it says, which lets U.S. users share their most recent active location with others and discover location-based content. Instagram head Adam Mosseri is having to reassure people that their location is only visible to others if they decide to share it. So they say. All right. It says, although Meta has made it clear that location sharing is off by default, there have been numerous posts on social media urging users to turn off location sharing, incorrectly claiming that it's automatically turned on. All right. So they say, but hey, people trying to be cautious because, sometimes these things can come on and just automatically, put you on blast out there like that. It says, we're double checking everything, but so far it looks mostly like people are confused and assume that. All right. Now, but it's nothing wrong about people being cautious, because, hey, like I said, hey, this devil is going around like a roaring lion, and we know that these is nothing more but Satan devices, okay, to monitor people, okay, track people, okay. But it says, let's see, because they can see themselves on the map when they open. It says other people can see them too. All right, Moseri said in a Threads post, it says, we're still checking everything though to make sure nobody shares location without explicitly deciding to do so, which, by the way, requires a double consent by design. We ask you to confirm after you say you want to share. All right, and that's all I'm gonna read on this article. You can read the rest on your own time. But yeah, again, you know how to use Instagram Map and protect your privacy. All right, but this is the book of Isaiah 32 and verse 7, and it says, the instruments also of the troll are evil. He deviseth wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words. All right, even when the needy speak of right. Okay, and like I've said, these devices, even these phones, I said, you know, in general, you know, your TV, all your laptops and stuff. Hey man, they're nothing more but devices to really watch and monitor Jake, man. Okay, they had that one movie. What was the name of that movie? Snowden. I think it was called Snowden because that's that guy's last name. I forget his first name. I want to say it's Eric Snowden, but it could be something to that degree. But I know his last name is Snowden. 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 All right, which he's now a citizen of Russia now. He moved. He fled the United States. And he was smart. He got out, but he worked for the U.S. You know, the I think it was the CIA or something, you know, but he was, they had some type of technology, man, where they could see through your houses. I mean, with a press of a button. And they showed you even in the movie where the guy, when Snowden was in there, that, I don't know if it's like an office little area or something. But the dude was just like, look at this, man. And he like pressed a button and said, I can look at the niece of some Saudi prince or something like that. One of them guys over there, like in like the Middle East or something, like their niece or something. And she was in the shower and he can look at that. And he was disturbed by that. He was like, what the hell? Like, that's invading people's privacy, but showing you they had the technology to do that. And they claimed they shut it down, but he exposed that they had this type of technology. And next thing you know, they was trying to get him. And they said, oh man, we want you to come back. They said, we ain't gonna do nothing to you. We just gonna give you a fair trial. And he was like, nah, man, as soon as he step off that plane, even if that, they said, man, you know, they gonna do all kind of stuff to that dude. So he got up through, but he exposed them for having that because he was disturbed by that. And he was like, man, this is crazy. And that shows you, and they claim, even when the movie was like, claimed that project been shut down, but you know it hasn't been shut down. You know, Esau got these devices to watch people, man, because this man can't sleep. He can't sleep without knowing who, what, when, where. You know, that's his MO, which I want to get into that in this lesson about, you know, that type of spirit, having that type of spirit, because even with us, we shouldn't conduct ourselves like that. Now, yes, we're watchmen, but we're watching what? Prophecy. We're looking for prophecy, you know, in current events and things like that. But as far as like, you know, getting into what so-and-so doing, what this person doing, what that person doing, we shouldn't be in that type of spirit, which we do have people like that in this truth. I've encountered guys like that, guys that, you know, try to call themselves doing videos on me and stuff like that. When, you know, they're not looking at prophecy, but more they're like, you know, watching you know what I'm saying? All right. But anyways, back to Esau. It says the instruments also of the churl are evil. He deviseth wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh right. Absolutely. You know, be trying to trap you. All right. But this is, you know, the book of Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach, chapter 11 and verse 29 says, bring not every man into thine house. Okay. So don't bring everybody into your house. And you can even look at, even with these apps, you know, because it can start going to your location and where you at. You shouldn't, everybody don't need to know where you at, where you live and all that. And don't be bringing everybody into your house. Okay. I remember like, you know, when I was, you know, before this truth, of course, but, you know, I had certain friends And I was, back then, my mindset was like, if you're my friend, I really look at you as my brother. You know what I'm saying? You're like a brother to me. You're not even a friend, you're a brother. But I didn't mind you coming over to my crib. Hey, but be mindful, don't just pop up, surprise. Hey, let me know you coming over or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't mind. But one of the things that I had certain particular friends, and but I got this one in mind right now, which I ain't gonna, put his name out there or nothing. But this one individual, I was friends with this guy for like, 5-6 years, maybe longer. It's hard to even remember now because I don't even really think about all that no more. But one of the things I noticed was like he wanted to always come over to everybody's spot, but the whole time that we knew him, nobody knows where he lives at. Which, hey, really, if you think about it, is biblical. Nobody should know where you at. But what got me was that he wants to be at everybody else's crib. He want to know where you at, where you live. So, but he never invited. But said, oh, you're always invited. Okay, I said, yeah, okay, you said that. You've been saying that, but you never told nobody where you live at. So it was like, he was just saying that talk, but he didn't really want nobody over there, but of course he wasn't doing it because he was keeping what the Bible says, because he don't hearken to this truth, because I even brought it out to him, and once I realized he wasn't hearkening unto this truth, I cut him off from being my friend, because especially knowing that he was really being more of a enemy and a snake, so I ended up cutting him off. But what it was that he didn't want nobody around, because he already knew within himself he was a shady individual. So of course he don't want you, knowing where he lives. Okay. But again, it says, "Bring not every man into thy house." All right, for the deceitful man have many trains. Okay. It says, "Like as a partridge taken and kept in a cage, so is the heart of the proud." Okay, and like as a spy. Okay, watcheth he for thy fall. Okay, see that? For he lieth in wait and turneth good, all right, into evil, and in things worthy praise will lay blame upon thee. Okay, you gotta watch out, man. It says, "Of a spark of fire, all right, a heap of coals is kindled, all right, and a sinful man layeth wait for blood." Yep, absolutely. Verse 33, it says, "Take heed of a mischievous man, for he worketh wickedness, lest he bring upon thee a perpetual blot." All right. Verse 34, it says, "Receive a stranger into thy house, and he will disturb thee." See that? All right, and turn thee out of thy own. Okay. So yeah, man, you don't want everybody knowing where you live at. And now that I know that, hey, I'm like, I don't say all that, because even these so-called homies and stuff, now that I've been in this truth, they try to, like, I guess they thinking, oh, man, I ain't heard from him in a while, I wonder what he's doing. And then they get in contact, they'll get in contact with somebody that because it's a small world around here, so they'll try to get in contact with somebody to, hey, man, I don't have his number, because nobody really has my number, so they'll try to get with this person, that person, and they might hit me up on like Instagram or Facebook or the Messenger, and then all of a sudden they try to reach out. So I reach out through them through one of those platforms, and then they be like, "Man, where you at? What you been up to? Where you living at?" And I don't tell none of that. I said, "Man, I don't put that out there." All right, especially now more than ever, you're bringing out this truth and this gospel, and that puts a target on your head. So you don't want to just be out there, hey, this is where I'm at, this is this and that. You want to be mindful of that. Even if I did post something, like, there are times I might go to the movie theater or something, and I post that don't mean I'm exactly there at that moment. I might post a picture after I done watched the movie, you know what I'm saying? And with the location of that movie theater or whatever, but that don't mean I'm right there, right then and there, and that's using wisdom too, because sometimes you put that, people say, oh, I know where he's at, and somebody's trying to target you. All right. But this is 1 Timothy 5:13. It says, "And withal they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers." Look at this. And also tattlers also, and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not. Okay, and there's that word busybodies, which I want to pull that up too, because you'll hear that, a lot of people you don't hear that being brought out as much like in the Christian church, but that's in the Bible, okay, all throughout the Bible. But it says in the Bible, a busybody is someone who meddles, all right, in the affairs of others. So you see that's somebody that's meddling, always, and you jumping into gossip, you getting into everybody's business. Me, I don't get into all that. I used to have, when I first was coming into this thing, I've been in this thing 8 years now. And, and I seen, a lot of people, once, people started like, they would inbox you, and this was all in the beginning, but they would inbox you, and then they'd be talking about other people, these guys that did a rebuke on me some years back, they were, before that, it came to that, they was talking to me about another brother, oh, this guy, he been in the truth 10 years and he ain't going out there on the highways and hedges. And the first thing, and that's what they were telling me. And I'm like, I don't know you, neither do I know the other guy. So I'm not going to speak on that matter. And number two, is like, I don't know his situation, because one of my things is I have understanding and I look at it from all aspects. I don't know. We don't know what his lot is. And I don't know, maybe he ain't called to do it, But these guys, they was boasting in the fact that they've been in it 2 years and they're doing more than him, or they feel they know more than him, and they was, moving with that type of energy. And because I wasn't just jumping out there and agreeing with them, so I guess, and then next thing you know, a little bit later after that, I became the target, So I knew it was coming. Sometimes you could feel something like that. And I'm like, because I felt like my spirit didn't click with those guys anyway. So I was like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. Look, 11:44, call all your how about Shemi Shy. But yeah, that, you getting into it and you on there in everybody's business trying to find out how long some people been in this truth and that truth. I don't hit brothers up asking them where you at, where you live. And there's nothing wrong with asking, like if you're sincere and you're talking to a brother and y'all, oh, we in the same city, because you find brothers around. But more than ever in the time we're in, you really want to be kind of like have that shut down. You don't need to be telling brothers and sisters, where you at, where you live, this and that, unless y'all clicking up, in the end times, because it's good to have, 2 or 3, together, than one, but hey, it might come to that, you might be on some I Am Legend stuff. And if you always around a crowd, you ain't gonna, you might lose your mind when you're by yourself. Some of us are by ourselves because the Heavenly Father might be grooming you for that moment when it comes. So you won't lose your mind, because if you look at the movie I Am Legend and how Will Smith was, just imagine, you can start losing your mind. You so used to being to yourself, and then suddenly you hear somebody's voice and stuff, you thinking you going crazy. All right. But again, it says, all right, in the Bible, a busybody is someone who meddles in the affairs of others, often gossiping or interfering where they shouldn't. See, and that's one of the things I don't like to be into all that. It says the term is found in both the Old and New Testaments. All right, it refers to those who are more concerned with the business of others than their own. Yeah, you need to worry about you, man. Okay, you should be working out your own salvation with fear and trembling. You should be in that type of spirit, in that matter. All right. It says busybodies are seen as disruptive to community harmony. All right, everything be going smooth, and then when them people come around, it's a whole lot of utter chaos, and start sowing discord. But then they'll flip it and say you are, which, hey, the book of Luke says when people begin to remove themselves from your company, you're supposed to jump and leap for joy, and that's what I do, because hey, those things happen. I don't go around bothering nobody, mind my business. But if you come with the foolery on my page or come around me with that energy, I'm gonna remove you, because that's not right. But if you're minding your business and somebody just out of nowhere, removes you from the company, hey, leap for joy. These things happen, or cast your name out as evil, it was said I wasn't a man of the Lord, but hey, you don't take the words of men, let Yahweh Shemi Shai justify you, okay? Which, hey, you stand firm, all right? Stand on business, that Yahweh Shemi Shai's business, all right? But again, it says, refer to those who are more concerned with the business. See, they're concerned with not with Yahweh Shem Shah's business, but the business of others than their own. Busybodies are seen as disruptive to community harmony and are often associated with idleness and gossip. See, you don't want to be like those individuals, okay? Especially Esau Edom, because he's in everybody's business. You know, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Job 9:24. So with him being in rulership, hey, he's in everybody's business. Now we know when we become in rulership, you know, the affairs of the world, you know, we will be, you know, monitoring, you know, the affairs of the nations, the heathen and all that, because they're going to be taught by us, but they're going to, you know, everything going to be done righteously. Hey, this dude, Esau, he's watching and being in everybody's business because he has wicked and cruel intentions for you. You know, he wants to overthrow you. You know, he wants what you got. He wants your land. Look what look how he's moving right now. Okay, because that's the intent of this man. But this is Psalms 37 and verse 32. It says, the wicked watch up the righteous and seeketh to slay him. The wicked being the Edomites. Okay. And who are they watching? Who are the righteous? The Israelites. Okay. They're watching the Israelites and they're seeking to slay you. Okay. So these devices of theirs, man, they're getting more and more crafty. Okay. You know, now, you know what I'm saying, your location popping up, you know, and pinpoint accurate, showing where you at, you know. All right. This is where Esau is, man. All right. This is 1 Peter 4, verse 15. It says, but let none of you suffer as a murderer or as a thief. Okay. Which he's a murderer and a thief. It says, or as a evildoer, look, or as a busybody in other men's matters. So you see that? So we're not supposed to be moving in that type of manner, all right? Which we know Esau's moving like that, all right? This is Psalms 10, starting at verse 8. It says, he sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. This is Esau. It says, in the secret places do he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor being the Israelites. Verse 9, it says, he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. And look, he do catch the poor because he is that cunning hunter. And his blessing is the sword, by the way. Okay, when he draweth him into his net. All right. Verse 10 says, he croucheth and humbleth himself that the poor may fall by his strong ones. Okay, his military might. All right. This is the type of devil that we're dealing with. All right. 2 Thessalonians 3 and 11 says, for we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly, working not at all, but are busybodies. All right, because even with Esau Edom, I mean, like I said, among us, we got people among us moving with that busybody spirit. And that's why I want to highlight that, because, you know, that's not the type of spirit we should move in. And if you are tuning in and you moving in that spirit, hey, you need to cut that out, repent from it. All right, and do better. You know, hey, you like, hey, man, it ain't my business. I ain't in that. You know what I'm saying? Don't jump into that. OK, because that's not the type of spirit we should be in. All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 11, starting at verse 9. It says, strive not in a matter that concern thee not. So you see that? Strive not in a matter that don't concern you. Okay. Sit not in the judgment, with sinners. Okay. Verse 10, it says, my son, meddle not with many matters. Okay. For if thou meddle much, okay, thou shalt not be innocent. All right. See? Because see, when you always in everybody's business, eventually the spotlight going to be put on you. And then you're not going to like it, you know, because I've had people all up on my page. But then, you know, and I learned from some of these guys, you know what I'm saying? The first thing when they come on there doing all that commenting and posting, then all of a sudden you go and you look at their page, and then boom, that's the scope being put on them. And then you're like, oh, shoot, this guy, you know, this dude ain't did a video in like 2-3 months, you know. And they'll be the same guy that'll be talking about you. They on there talking about this person's bugged out, this person's this and that, but they not doing the work, you know. And like, man, what happened to you? You done put down the plow, you done did this, but you on here calling yourself, you know, commenting on this, pointing this out and pointing that out. You know, no video, you know, they're not doing no videos daily, you know, trying to make their call election sure. You know, which, you know, I mean, we know this, brothers, you know, their lot is different. You know, I ain't saying that because you're not doing daily videos, that mean that you're not a man of the Lord or nothing. So don't twist my words. But, you know, if you on in that what they call on fire spirit, then, you would be trying to, do as much as you can, all right? But that don't mean, like, because you're not doing it, don't mean that you're not a man of the Lord, You could be doing all that and be just wicked, because you could be teaching through envy and strife. Everything about your works is all contentious, and you're just teaching through envy and strife. You sound like a bitter individual, on every lesson and stuff, and it's just, and some people might not want to tune into that, And then again, some people do, because, some of our people, they don't really want the edification, but they want the controversy. They like the contention. They like seeing the back and forth, that like some WWE type stuff, this guy going to get at it with this guy and that guy with this guy. Some people like that type of stuff, I try to stay out of that and focus on, what's happening in the world, and just teaching what I know. I don't act like I know it all, all right. But again, it says, my son, meddle not with many matters, for if thou meddle much, thou shalt not be innocent. And if thou follow after, thou shalt not obtain, neither shalt thou escape by fleeing. Okay? See, you won't be able to get away. Now that spotlight's on you. All right? And now everything's about you's being popped out, So then you get mad, and then you eventually you wither away, or fall out or whatever. I've seen it happen. Some guys that came at me, and now you get the news that they're no longer. And I wasn't even searching out, like looking to see what they up to now, but it just came out, and that was the Heavenly Father giving that report, letting it be known. Because this guy offended a lot of brothers and came at a lot of brothers very disrespectfully, and we all kept saying the same thing. And I didn't know these brothers, but they, you just find their lesson, and then they mention this guy. And then boom, you get the news that this guy put down the plow. And then next thing you know, you're like, he's no longer in this thing. And it's like, whoa. And it's the same guy that was all up on my stuff talking reckless, and it can happen, man. The Heavenly Father's cold with it. But it says, touch not thou my anointed, and do my prophets no harm. And see, and he may not understand that, because in his mind, he don't see you as one of those men. Okay. When the whole time the Heavenly Father's looking at him as you're not one of my men, because if you put down the plow, you're not fit for the kingdom. Okay. This is Proverbs 20 and verse 3. And it says, it is an honor for a man to cease from strife. You see that? But every fool will be meddling. And that's why when you hear these guys in some lessons, they could tell you this brother doing this and this brother doing that. One guy, like I said, he did a video where he was talking about me. I did some art for a brother. And he claims, I guess, according to his lesson and what he brought about that brother, that I know, but I don't talk to the brother every day. But, it's been a minute. And, but he claimed that brother put down the plow. So he's like, how can he be 144,000? You going to be doing this and doing that. And I'm like, first of all, that's why I did a quick response, because I was like, I want to clear that out. First of all, I don't talk to him every day. Because I'm not in everybody's business. I'm too occupied with my life. I got, making my call and election sure. I got to get up. I go to work. I work, Monday through Friday, every week, and then on top of that, I'm doing the lessons. So with all that and taking care of my household, I don't have time to be like, what's this brother doing? What that brother doing? What's this sister doing? What's this person doing? What they doing? I'm not into all that. So I didn't know, for all I knew is that he's doing the videos and doing the work. I don't know, and I'm not subscribed to everybody's channels. I can't sit and watch videos all day, but, he said that, and I told him, I said, well, if he's not doing it, then, hey, what you're saying is true. I agree, on that. But then he was going into then he went on talking about my page and putting my face on art and all this. So obviously, for somebody to say that, he claims that, I ain't on there no more. But, and I brought it, and that's when I brought out the truth, revealing. I'm like, well, this is the same guy that was following my page. And then he claimed that he deactivated his page, but yet you kept pulling up screenshots of my posts and when we were speaking to one another, and that didn't last too long, because I was already leery about that guy. But that just showed you that, hey, these people, they'll say that, but they be watching, man. They be watching you. All right. And everybody's matter, because he had an issue with another guy, and he went and he was like obsessed with that guy, and he started to pull up his YouTube. And the guy, which I think what that guy should have did is, once he woke up to this truth, I would have got rid of my old YouTube or whatever and start fresh, because this guy, he went on there, pulled up some old videos. And of course, it was before the guy was in the truth. He was shaving, so he had the smooth face and all that. But he was smoking marijuana in the clip, and he was like, look at this guy, no beard on his face and smoking weed, just wicked, because he was mad about this guy, because he told him to chill out with the rebukes, because that's all that guy does. And which that was what people was warning me about. Watch out with that guy, he's and all that. And that's when I was like, so when I seen this guy subscribe to my page, I was already like, whoa, you being, on defense mode, because he gonna move like some of them other guys. But yeah, he went on there and looked at that, and I'm thinking like that was before he was in the truth. But I was thinking in my mind, if I was that guy, I would have got rid of the old stuff, because these guys will look at your old stuff and try to pull that up on you. Despite, you don't know, hey, he could have repented from that, and that was the end of it, or maybe he didn't think to go back and dig that up. But you took the time to dig all the way back into this man's stuff and looking at those old videos and judging that man. Okay, just wicked, man. All right. So again, it says, it is an honor for a man to cease from strife, but every fool will be meddling. Okay, so you're gonna be into a lot of people's business. All right, that's not me. All right, and that shouldn't be you guys. If you're tuning in, hey, don't be like that. All right, this is Ephesians 5, starting at verse 15. It says, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, because that wisdom and knowledge will be the stability of the times. The wisdom and knowledge of these scriptures, by the way, not the wisdom and knowledge of this world, which that's foolishness. All right. Verse 16, it says, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Yeah, the days are very evil. These devices are getting crazy, man. All right. This man is rising up in technology and stuff like all that, because he's getting all this on the left hand. It's all left hand works and stuff. Okay, but it's getting to the point, because he's watching Jake, man. All right, he knows that Yahweh Shai is getting close. We're getting closer and closer to not only his kingdom falling, but the return of Yahweh Shai. All right, these nations coming up against him. All right, we're waking up. Okay, which we're the trending topic. Okay, when they have their world meetings, yeah, they talk about all the other stuff, the conflict with the nations, but the first thing he's talking about is us. But they'll never say that out here. They don't want to give us they don't want to give us that time of day, because people might, wait a minute, Israelites, who, what? One time when that so-called Biden, when he was in office, he almost slipped up and said that, because he was like Israel, and then he switched it up and started talking about Negroes. He said he actually said you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. He said it exactly how we say it when we tell you that the Israelites are the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, because he was trying to push that what on our people during the pandemic. But he said you Israel, and he almost slipped up, okay. And I did a lesson on that, but it's been a while. I wish I had that clip. You probably won't be able to find it now. All right. But that just shows you, hey, they know who we are, man. Okay. That's why they had to hurry up and get him up out of there, because, he's slipping on his words and stuff. But yeah, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Yeah, it's very, very evil. Okay. All right, so with that, this is 1 Thessalonians 4:11, and I'll go ahead and close it out with this, because y'all pretty much get the point. Hey, just be mindful with these apps and stuff like that. Even when they say, oh, man, people are overreacting, this and that. Hey, man, it's you cannot overreact when it comes to this damn devil. All right, you do have enemies. You have people that hate you, all right, that are watching you and seek to slay you, okay, because they know who you are, all right. All right, but this is 1 Thessalonians 4:11. It says, all right, and that ye study to be quiet. See that? all right, and do your own business, okay, and to work with your own hands as we commanded you, okay. So that's where you should be, all right. And part of that is, you know, hey, that doing your own business is what? Working out your own salvation, all right, or diving into this word, studying to show yourself approved, okay, building your bond, your relationship with Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, okay. That's where you should be at, okay. Not you know, striving in other people's business, okay, like Esau, because he don't keep these scriptures, man. Okay, he's in everybody's business. He want to know what you doing, what that person doing, and all this. And that's why he conjures up these devices. All right. And now that this stuff is being out, you know, a lot of stuff can be aired out. You know, somebody can be like, "Yo, I'm at this place," and then they can pop up, boom, on there. You ain't really at where you say you at. So that's gonna cause a lot of tension. Relationships can be broken, and all that. All right. So that's the type of time that we're in. But for us, man, you know, to have eyes to see and ears to hear, it's a blessing to be coming back to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. All right. And our focus is on him, because we're seeking for a new heaven and a new earth. All right. We're looking for a new kingdom. All right. Because this place is through big time. All right. So I'll go ahead and close it out with that. All right. I pray that this has been an edifying lesson. All right. I want to give all honor, all glory, and all praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the elders of the nation of Israel. And shalom to you brothers and sisters out there. Hey, until the next one, shalom.